Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Happy Thursday. I hope that you guys are enjoying your day. So far, I hope that you guys are going to have a productive day. So today, I wanted to do a little something different. I wanted to do something that I have not done in a while, and that is a true crime story, right? Last night, hey Natisha, how you doing? So last night, would y'all please hit the like button upon entering the room if you don't mind? So last night, I did a stream. And by the way, I heard this morning that I had did two streams yesterday. Now, I didn't do two streams yesterday unless I was sleepwalking through my day. I did a stream last night, but I hadn't done one earlier in the day. I didn't think I had anyway, but okay. So anyway, um, while I was doing my video last night, I was made aware of a true crime story that I hadn't heard anything about. I have been wrapped up in this upcoming presidential election, and I don't know how I let this slip under the radar, but it did. And so they told me about a true crime that had occurred in West Virginia, and that crime was a hold on, let me pull up my it took me a minute to come online too because I was trying to pull up my screenshots, right? So the crime happened in West Virginia, and this couple right here had adopted, I think they said 5 children, and at least three of those children were black children, and they were being used as slaves, right? And so I looked up the story, like I said I would, and I was shook, but was I shook to the point of I can't believe what was going on? No, I wasn't, but it was very disheartening. And but via our country's history, when it comes to chattel slavery, um, I can't. Hey, Miami Popo, I can't say that I was shocked to the point of disbelief, right? And so I want to kind of talk about that today, because like I said, I was shook, I was saddened by it as I was reading the articles and hey Keisha Bishop and looking at a couple of the news interviews. I was like, wow, this is really going on. But this is to me, I also wanted to talk about this because there's a larger issue going on here, in my opinion, and that's what we're going to talk about, right? So first, let's get into the article, to the true crime, and we'll expound on it, right? So if you give me a minute, I will try to I pulled up some things from the article. And so the first one, this is from Radar Online. It says, white couple accused of forcing adopted black children to work as slaves and kept in a locked barn, right? So that is one of the articles that I read first. The article goes on to state that, and again, this is from Radar Online, says a white couple in West Virginia have been accused of forcing their adopted black children to work as their slaves and lived in a locked, dilapidated barn. RadarOnline.com has learned. The article goes on to state that Donna Ray Lance, age 63, and Jean K. Whitefeather, age 62, pleaded not guilty on Tuesday, June 24th, to multiple new charges related to the treatment of their 5 adopted children, ages 6 through 16. Right? I was like, wow. The article goes on to state that the 5 children were discovered locked in a rundown barn, allegedly being forced to work on neighboring farmland. Listen, being forced to work on neighboring farmland. Okay, the judge presiding over the case said the couple targeted the children, adopted the children, targeted the children because of their race, and they were allegedly quote unquote used as slaves. These children were another news article said that these children were originally adopted in Washington State, and from Washington State, they moved on farmland in West Virginia. They also had a lot of land in Washington State, and they had another home in Washington State that we'll get into later. And so they were originally arrested on October 2nd, 2023. They made bond because they sold one of those properties, right? But anyway, the article goes on to state the couple's new charges include human trafficking of a minor child, use of a minor child in forced labor, and child neglect, creating substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death, right? I said so. Initially, their bonds were initially $200,000 apiece, and like I said, they made that bond because they had the Lance guy, the husband, had the brother sell the Washington State property. So, but they were rearrested, and their bonds were raised to $500,000, right? So the article goes on to state that according to the couple's October 2023 arrest, um, the 16-year-old and the 14-year-old children were locked in a 20 by 14 shed. Oh my God, you know how small that is? A 20 by 14 shed, which had no lights, running water, or food in the shed. A camera was mounted in the left corner of the cramped space. So they locked them in from the outside. They couldn't get out, and there was a camera mounted on the wall. The barn additionally had no way of being opened from the inside. When the police tried to enter the barn where the children were being kept, they had to force the barn door open, right? So the article goes on to state that we'll the welfare check um revealed the children were in poor condition, were in dirty clothes, and had sores on the bottom of their feet. Right. The neighbors also said that the children were so dirty that it was a stench. They can smell, the stench from, feet away. The 16-year-old in particular had sores on the bottom of his feet. I'm assuming they were working the field with no shoes on. And he had a really foul body odor, and also in the barn that they were kept in, it had, like I said, no running water. They had no toiletries. They had some kind of makeshift toilet, um pretty much like a bucket, probably with a toilet lid on it or something like that. Anyway, but there was no running water, hence there were no bathroom facilities, right? And so the article goes on to state that White Feather, which is the wife, who homeschooled all five children, told authorities that the barn was a quote unquote teenage clubhouse, right? Child, and claimed the minors were not being held there against their will. I disagree. She additionally tried to claim that the kids, quote unquote, liked the barn. They were found locked inside. Wow. Said one of the teenagers disagreed and told police she had been locked inside the building for 12 hours and was last given food at 6 a.m. Right? So when the police busted open the dorm, open busted open the shed, they found a 14 and 16-year-old in there. The wife tried to make it seem like they was in there because they wanted to be in there, even though the barn door was locked from the outside. And I guess a camera was mounted on the wall to ensure that they wouldn't try to escape, right? And so and also in the shed, it was discovered that the children were forced to sleep on this concrete floor right here without any mattress or any type of bedding or anything like that, right? So this is a picture of one of the buildings on the property. Do you notice what's taped to the barn? This flag and this star right here. Um, this is tantamount to um um I don't know how to put this on YouTube. This lets you know that these people are very racist, okay? So this photo right here is a picture taken of the barn. Also, you can see the ropes on the table, like they had been tied down at one point in time or whatever. You see a chair and a whatever that thing is right there. I can't make out what that is. So this is the father in court with his lawyer, right? And I got this from Fox 26. He doesn't seem worried at all. You know, this is the mother. She's in court after they were rearrested. She's got a smile. She's got a smile on her face. She's really just. She doesn't seem to be concerned about anything at all. She's not remorseful at all. You know, she's not. Upset that she was even rearrested. She looks very unbothered, right? And I believe that there is a reason for that, and we're going to talk about it, right? And so even the dad looked unbothered, right? So this is also another photo from the little shed that they were in. And these are the conditions that these children, for I don't know how long, had to stay in. You know, they were living under these conditions. And so this is actually a picture of the home that they were in. Like I said, I got a couple of these photos, from the videos online or whatnot. And I just wanted to show you the conditions that they were living in. Um, this is a picture of the actual barn. This very small space. Like I said, they were locked inside of this space. They had no lights or no running water. Hence no toilet or anything like that, right? And so, but this was one of the homes. These are both of the homes that were sold that they were living in. Now, I find this very interesting. I want to show you a picture of these homes because it said that the couple had no income. They couldn't identify any type of income that this couple had. So, if you have no income, number one, how are you able to adopt these children with no income? Number one, from Washington State. Number two is, how is it that you can afford these lavish homes right here if you have no income, right? So one of these properties, like I said, the farmland that the house sat on, the house was $200,000, but they had $700,000 worth of land that the property sat on. So if you have no verifiable income, how do you have the monies to afford these types of properties, right? And this amount of land, right? So I guess they started digging into their assets and whatnot, and so they attributed this lavish home to human trafficking, right? So I got a couple of these quotes. These are from Atlanta Black Star. This is from Undisputable on YouTube. They are out of order, but I'll read them. So this one says police remained at the house for 3 hours before Lance, which is the dad, arrived home with an 11-year-old boy. Right? Says when authorities checked the home for other potential victims, they found the 9-year-old holed up in the loft, up in the top of the house, right? And Lance was placed under arrest. About an hour later, Whitefeather, which is the mom, returned home and guided deputies to another 6-year-old girl who was visiting with another couple from their church. Can you believe that? Visiting another couple from their church. What was she doing? Cleaning the house or something? Like, I'm confused. But anyway, she said during the latest bond hearing, because they were rearrested, in case I didn't mention it. After they made the $200,000 bond, some more investigating was going on, and they were rearrested and given a $500,000 bond apiece, and they remain in jail right now because they have not made that bond, right? So anyway, says during the latest bond hearing, in Kanawha County, prosecutors argued that the couple's original cash bonds were likely obtained through trafficking profits, human trafficking profits, y'all, right? Pointing to the fact that the couple produced the $400,000 bond despite a lack of obvious means to do so. And that is what I meant by when I said that they made the first bond because they sold one of the homes. I'm assuming the Washington State home, and that's how they obtained the $400,000 bond initially, right? And so it goes on to say, at the same proceeding, Lance and Whitefeather claimed they possessed no income or assets, raising questions about the source of the funds for their bond. Kanawha County Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Christopher I can't say his last name, characterized the money posted for the couple's release as contraband, right? Directly or indirectly used or intended for use, quote unquote, to violate human trafficking laws, right? Now, this goes deeper than human trafficking, in my opinion, but we're going to talk about it. Says, Ackers also remarked that the case was unlike any. This is the judge. The judge remarked that also remarked that the case was unlike any other she had heard during her entire career as a judge. Quote: It alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor. Ackers said, according to the reports, quote unquote, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted based on their race. These children were adopted and targeted because they are black. This is what the judge is saying. And they were used basically as slaves, from what the indictment alleges. They weren't used basically as slaves, they were used as slaves, right? Hence the sores on the bottom of the older kids' feet and whatever else was going on in the house, right? And so it says both Lance and Whitefeather pleaded not guilty to the new charges in the indictment. However, they remain in jail, as they have been unable to meet the higher bond amount. The next court appearance is scheduled for September 9th. And like I said, they were arrested and rearrested, because, oh, and also the well check came because some neighbors grew suspicious of what was going on, and they called the police, right? So it says the upgraded charges include alleged use of a minor child in forced labor, child neglect, creating a substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death, as well as false swearing, and potential civil. What do you mean potential civil rights violations based on color, race, or ancestry, according to the court documents? The indictment suggests that three of the five adopted children were black, and that the human rights charges stemmed from those children being specifically targeted and forced to work because of their race, right? So at the same, it also said at the, I think I read this one. Income, yeah, about the no income and no assets. And then I'm wondering if their assets were seized, because they believe that the assets were obtained via human trafficking laws. Okay, now I'm trying to figure out if there will be, if there in fact will be hate crime charges against them as well. And let me speak to everybody, right? I'm sorry, y'all. I just had to get that out the way before I started with my commentary. Hey, just my thoughts. How you doing? Hey, love chicken. It is absolutely sad. Um, hey, triple darkness. How you doing? Hey, Lady Tia. How you doing? Clicking the view. How you doing? Just my saw said, okay, I saw they were black. Yeah, yes, they were. Crafts and Howard Leela, how you doing? You heard about this? Yeah, I heard about it yesterday. The people told me about it in the video that I did last night. I hadn't heard about it until then, you know. And so, pure case of ex trafficking and child slavery. CT. The story made me, yeah, it made me sick as well. Child. Well, that's, you make a good point, CT, because a lot of people have a problem, because of microaggressions when it comes to race relations. I think that some of these people adopt these black children. They have good intentions, but as time goes on, I don't even know if they realize it or not, but they start having these microaggressions, and these microaggressions as these children grow older. You know what I mean? And it causes a lot of trauma. Even this case is absolutely ridiculous. It is beyond. It is horrific. But even in a quote unquote normal setting or situation, when it comes to these interrace adoptions, there is a lot of trauma because of that. There have been studies about the adverse effects on black children being adopted by white couples. There have been studies about that, right? Um, Hey Sarah, Real Talk Channel says, Olivia, my God, I saw this yesterday, and I sent it to my friends. It is absolutely evil. You can't believe how people get away, right, for so long. And that is what I was thinking. Yeah, the neighbors were reporting it. The neighbors, um, yeah, CPS failed those babies' restless fate. Right. In England, they don't really allow interracial adoption unless there's good reason, like their grandparents. Some. Oh wow. Oh wow. That's interesting. But because of the situation in this country, the history of racism, okay, the history of chattel slavery, the fact that it has been proven that the trauma from chattel slavery was so bad and so horrific generation after generation that that trauma is actually encoded into our DNA, okay, encoded into black people's DNA, of the descendants of slaves, that trauma from chattel slavery that was inflicted upon our ancestors was so horrific. Just think about it. That it is actually encoded in our DNA. And then you take that, and Dr. Joy DeGruy calls that, she turned the coin. If you guys have never heard of her, she has videos here on YouTube. You need to check her out. Her name is Dr. Joy DeGruy. She coined the term post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? Hey, Jill's comfort zone. And but there have been many studies about the after effects of slavery down through the generations, right? We know that it has caused, we know that there is still systemic racism in this country, even though a lot of people like to live in the dream world. You know, even a lot of black people think that we are living in a post-racist society. Many of us can't live in that dreamscape, and we know that this is a fact, right? And you got all this going on in this country. You have black people not wanting to, for whatever reason, um, admit that racism still exists in this country, right? So even some black people have macro and micro aggressions towards their own people because of self hate and a whole lot of other things, right? And so my question is, what can a white family teach a black child about? Well, nothing, nothing. You know what I mean? But the problem is, Mr. Carruthers, some kids that are not even in foster care, that are in, their family home, don't know anything about the history of chattel slavery, right? So what are they're teaching their kids that we are all, which we are all, but we are all equal in this country, until they get out on their own one day, or even as a child, something happens to them in school or something, when they get their N-word wake up call. I have heard people online, even over here in this sector, talk about, well, I don't know nothing about that. I've never heard of this before, and all this and all that, making like they have never gotten their black wake up call. Okay, that is living in a dreamscape. Okay, for whatever reason, you don't want to admit who you are, as it pertains to this country, as it pertains to the system of white supremacy, racism. Even black people don't want to talk about that. A lot of black people are uneducated to this fact, right? For a whole lot of reasons, but it affects every part of the black person's life, economically, socially, when it comes to employment, when it comes to owning a home, when it comes to generational wealth. Every part of your life, our lives are affected by systemic racism, right? But a lot of our own people don't even want to talk about it because, like I said, they like to live in a dreamscape. Okay, they want to deny it for this reason. Some people don't want to talk about it because, for whatever reason, they think that if they don't talk about it, it'll go away, right? But that is just not true. That is just not going to happen. You have black people also in this country, and throughout the diaspora, that were, raised by, say you have a mixed race child, and that child was raised by the Anglo side of the family, and they have never been introduced to these types of conversations, right? And they have never, had a chance to know anything about their blackness. So they come out, they become adults, they become very confused, they grow to hate themselves, or they take up on the lessons that they were learned what I call at the table of the Anglo, which is to hate black people, right? Even though you see atrocities happening to this day like this is horrific. But what about when we see things on? There is no excuse for nobody black to put their head in the sand anymore in this country. We have seen examples because of cell phones, because of people videotaping these atrocities. All the way back to, like, I think the first one I saw was what was that man named the King Man in California? They got beat and it sparked a riot. Rodney King, and since then we've seen countless black men and women gunned down via police violence, in particular for no reason at all, right? Mostly during traffic stops, in any old sort of everyday thing. It can get you have a target on your back. You can be going to the store to get some Skittles and a sweet tea, and an Arizona sweet tea, and be killed by a person, by a non-black individual, right? Hey, Joanna, it was you that I was talking about that said that you really didn't know anything about what was going on in this country as it pertains to black people. I remember you saying something like that. We had a conversation about that a while ago. But anyway, Sarah said, but a lot of people don't know that stuff, but wants to reclaim the N word and use it liberally, right? I think it's wrong to put that in the psyche of that next generation. Want to reclaim. Well, now see, some black people have chosen to reclaim the N word and put an A on it instead of a hard ER, because they want to take power away from that word. Because if you have a drop of melanin in your skin in this country, you are considered a N word with a hard ER on the end of it. So they want to reclaim that. I have a problem with non-black people having a problem with not being able to say that word. I have a problem with black people in this country, especially young black people, that don't think there's anything wrong with non-black people saying that word. So if they want to reclaim that word, they have every right to reclaim that word, and take power away from their word. That word, that is the sentiment behind claiming that word. So you have to understand what it means to be called the N word in this country by a non-black person with a hard ER on the end of it. Okay? That's why that's why. That is the reasoning behind that. But anyway, as it pertains to this case, I think that there is a deeper issue going on. I'm wanting to now, we all know that every year there are thousands of black children as well as black adults, male and female, that go missing in this country, missing without a trace. It is very rarely talked about in this country, but anytime you have a pink person gone missing, it makes world news, right? Whether it's a lie or the truth. Right now, we have seen cases when these pink people have gone missing, and they weren't missing at all. They was just pulling the wool over people's eyes. It was not true. It was a ruse, right? Right now on Hulu, there's the case of that lady. I can't think of her name. She was married. She said she was abducted, but she really wasn't. The whole thing is just sick, right? So we've seen that happen in this country. But the whole country is put on alert now via the Amber Alerts and other types of alerts, right? But when you don't see that when it comes to especially black children that have gone missing, and not only that, even black adults, like I said, that go missing without a trace, and you have to wonder why. I think that it's very insidious. I don't know what's going on in Washington State when it comes to these black kids in particular. Do you see what I'm saying? But I think that the reason why this lady wasn't bothering her or her husband, because I think that potentially there's a whole some kind of trafficking ring set up to do this sort of thing, right? And so she's not worried about it. She probably knows people in high places that pay people like this to do things of this nature. So she figures those higher up people, in my opinion, are going to get them off, right? So I think that a deeper investigation should be given, because not only is this human trafficking, do you see what I'm saying? This is slavery, right? you know, and nobody wants to talk about or give reparation to or even give credence to chattel slavery that happened in this country for over 400 years when it comes to descendants of black slaves. They don't even want to talk about reparations when it comes to black people in this country, even though we have seen reparations given to pretty much everybody that America has offended or done wrong. Even the indigenous Indians have been given forms of reparations via monies, scholarships. They've been given land, and all types, the casinos, and all types of, they live on these reservations and they don't have to fool with the rest of the country if they don't choose to, and so it's just, even like I said, even they have been given with the Jews via what happened in World War II have been given reparations from the United States of America, because the U.S. knew that these people were being held in places like Auschwitz, right? We've seen who else has been given reparations? Even ex-slave owners were given reparations back in the day, because they were going to go bankrupt without the slaves working their land and stuff like things of that nature. They were even given reparations, right? The Japanese that were once indentured servants in this country have been given reparations, right? And also they were given reparations because they were held in these camps during World War One. They were given reparations, all kind of reparations to all different kinds of people. And we know that when it comes to the Anglo, in order to be admitted into the fraternity of white supremacy racism, no matter if you were Irish, no matter if you were Scottish, no matter if you were Italian, when it came to this country, or Eastern European, Western European, as long as you were not descended from blackness, right? As long as you were not descended from slavery, when it came to this country early on, you were ushered in under the banner as being white, right? So even on our census, or when you have an identifier, like when you're applying for whatever, and they ask you your race, right? You don't see, you see, we're known as, we have to check the African American box, right? Um, but when it comes to whiteness, when there's no, sub box for being American, right? We are Americans, right? We are descended from slavery, but we are Americans because our blood is in the soil, just like the white man's blood is in the soil. Why do we have to be called African American? They don't have to check the box for Irish American or Scottish American, or you know what I mean, or anything East Indian American or anything like that, right? They simply check, white or whatever. There's no sub, no sub, system, no sub caste system under that system of whiteness, because they all fall under that banner. But we are not in that caste system, and we are not in that banner. We are not in the system of white supremacy, racism, right? No matter the fact that you got some black people out here that so desperately want to be included into this system of white supremacy racism that they go against our own people. And I'm talking about on a political level, right? On a socio-economic level, if they're allowed to do that. And so all of these things, in my opinion, play into what this couple has done and why they feel so confident that they're going to get out of this. I think there's some kind of ring. I remember a movie. I don't know if y'all even ever seen this movie. It was called Antebellum, and it starred that lady. She's a singer. What is her name? Like Victoria Monet or something like that. I can't think of her the first name. Or is her first name Monet? Whatever. Anyway, in the story called Antebellum, it was this lady. She was kidnapped basically, and forced, to go down south and live on this pretty much fake slave farm where they will make them pick cotton by day. The women were, and they were, essayed at night, and and the cotton that they picked on these farms, they would burn the cotton at night because there was no use for it, and they were treated like slaves. They were abducted, in this 21st century and treated like slaves. If you haven't seen that movie Antebellum, it's very interesting. You guys ought to watch it, right? So eventually she escaped, from the, she escaped from her captors, and she let these people know what was going on in this encampment down south. Like they were like literally kidnapping these people, these black people, and forcing them, into doing stuff like it. The whole thing was sick, right? And so, yeah, it's just horrible what's going on in this country. It's never stopped. But but when it comes to white people being allowed to adopt, black children or even foster black children, I said there have been studies on the adverse effects of that. And don't you find it interesting that we're supposed to be 14? We're supposed to account for 14% of the population in this country. And why is it that 25% of the children in foster care are black? Okay, and not all of those cases are because of physical abuse, right? In any form. Some of it is because the children have been taken out of the home, because there wasn't enough food in the house, or they had subpar living conditions via the state or whatever. But these black children account for 25% of the foster care system, right? And so I used to be a foster parent. I also used to work for a state. I've told you guys that before. But there are good foster homes out there. I wasn't allowed to foster. I was allowed to foster one little Anglo girl, pretty as she can be. I was allowed to foster her for a couple of months. And I really think that they started having a problem with that, and so they placed her somewhere else, and that was fine. But I really hated to see her go because I had a problem with her going to see her birth mom and coming home and coming home you know messed up, and it took me a week to get her straightened out again. And by the time I get her to feeling safe again, it's time for her to go back. Do you see what I'm saying? Just all of these things, all of these microaggressions, even when it came to that system. There has even been talk of defunding the foster care system because it needs to be redone for all children, because it is very traumatic for all ethnicities of children if you are placed in a more dangerous situation than the one that you were in originally. So they need to overhaul the foster care system. It's also overwhelmed. A lot of these kids, I forgot what I was going to say. Um, uh, Shoot, I lost my train of thought that fast. I'm sorry about that, y'all. But overall, the whole system needs to be overhauled. Is stretched to capacity. A lot of these children go missing from some of these larger states like California. Florida is notorious for losing these children in the system. Right? They don't go out and do checks of the foster homes. They just place the children in the homes, and they are just kind of there. Right? They looked too comfortable in court, unbothered. That's right. That's right, Leela. They looked real comfortable in court, knowing that their charges, they ain't worried about it because they figure they're going to get out of it, right? So I don't even see why they had a $200,000 bond at first, and then it was raised to a $500,000 bond. They should be held without bond. Okay, these are crimes against humanity. Okay, in my opinion, right? These are hate crimes. I've heard no mention of a hate crime or a crime against humanity. The UN classifies slavery, any form of slavery in any country, as a crime against humanity. So, and America has never atoned for that, never atoned for it, right? But they say when you don't learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it, right? So this also brings up the conversation of black people being so blasé about their freedoms in this country when we are still considered 3/5 of a human being, right? So your very freedom can be in jeopardy. People talk of a race war like it could never happen. It absolutely could happen. Because who is going to willingly go, go back into slavery? Even if you go to the Statue of Liberty, as they talk about immigrants, they call slaves. What do they say about the slave? They say that we were involuntary immigrants. They don't say that people that were abducted from Africa and forced to come over here to be treated less than animals. Okay, they don't say slavery. They say we were involuntary immigrants. Okay, that says that it's on the Statue of Liberty, right? When they're describing peoples that came into this country. And so yeah, that's what I think about it. Yeah, no bond, no bond, no bond for that at all. If you can treat a child like that, you are capable of anything. Absolutely. And how do we know that these are the only kids that they ever had? Have some of the kids passed away? And they told nobody about it. The kids were secluded away. Do you see what I'm saying? Hey, Gwen Starr, we don't know if some of those kids died for whatever reason and they buried them without alerting anybody because they were adopted, and they say that they were homeschooled. I doubt that they were schooled at all. And so especially the 14 and 16-year-old, I think that they were locked in a barn because they started getting older, and they probably feared that they would do some harm them so that they could get away. So they would lock them in a barn, right? And put a camera in the barn so that they wouldn't try to flee or whatever, right? And ain't no telling, what would happen to them if they defied these people. It's just unbearable to think about, you know. But this is what happened when these sort of things go unchecked. And that is the reason why I want to talk about it today. I know that this is not a very, a popular subject over here in this area, and that's fine. But when I found out about it, I had to talk about it. Y'all know I have not done an interview, done a video like this in a long time over here. Because when I want to have these types of conversations, I will go into other sections because pretty much it's falling on deaf ears when it comes to a lot of people over here, and that's fine. But it falls on deaf ears when it comes to a lot of people in general. Do you see what I'm saying? But even to the point to where over here in this sector, I guess it's something to be made fodder of when I say that I am black first. When I talk about these issues, I don't know why it seemed as a roast or a gag because I say I'm black first. Black first, being black first simply means that you want to look out for your own people first, just like every other race, ethnicity, and creed of people do. Okay, but it is a joke to your own people to want to look out for the collective, not the individual, but for the collective interest of your own people first. That is part of, we have to take some accountability when it comes to the situations, a lot of the situations that we were in, that we are in this country. It's economically, politically, and even when it comes to even socially, right? Hey, Creole Butterfly. True, but as I've stated, my dad was an immigrant. Um, but once in this country, he became a Negro, because he was descendant of slavery from. Well, like I said, if you have any type of melanin in your skin, you are considered a N word with the ER in this country. It is called the one drop rule. I'm sure that some young people probably have never even heard of the one drop rule. Some young people, when it comes to even public schools these days, there have been arguments when it comes to the history books in public schools because they don't want to talk about slavery anymore in reference to black people. They want to liken it to indentured servitude. Indentured servitude is far different from chattel slavery. When it comes to indentured servitude, you serve your time, with these people. Like you were brought over here from England, right? Because you committed a crime and you were forced into indentured servitude for 5, 6, 7 years, right? At the end of the 5, 6, 7 years, you were released. in this country to do what you wanted to do, right? You were free. That is not true with chattel slavery. It happened for over 400 years. Okay? And even some of those, especially we know even when it came to the paddy rollers, the people that would hunt down runaway slaves, they were once taken, stripped from their homeland and brought over here, which was pretty much considered a desert and uncivilized land at first, to do indentured servitude over here, for a crime, and they chose to stay. But a lot of those Irish people that were looked down upon at one point in time in their country, they were the slave catchers, right? Well, in case you didn't know, this on the side note, right? Muslim countries are terrible countries for black people, but you never talk about that. I know better living in Europe. I don't know who this person is. I don't live in a Muslim country. I live in the United States of America. Okay? Yes, there is slavery going on in these Muslim countries right today. But since I am in America, I have to focus on where I live, the atrocities that are going on in my country first. See, here's another problem that we have as melanated people. There is so much going on with us, so much trauma that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, along with our ancestry, that it is hard to focus on one thing at a time, because you have so much coming at you at one time. So if you throw in something that you got to deal with, that you hear your people going through from another country, you can't focus on the atrocities happening in your own backyard. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I am focused with the atrocities that's going on in my backyard. And that's just how I feel about it. Absolutely, Crafts and Hall. But anyway, I really want to bring this to you guys because, like I said, it was mentioned to me last night and it kind of broke my heart. These kids, on top of generational trauma that's encoded in their DNA, now have to deal with this sort of thing. I don't even know how they will end up. I hope they will end up somewhere where they can get therapy and coping skills. How long have the 14 and the 16-year-old, which are the oldest, the boy and the girl, how long have they been going through this? Have they gone through this since their early age, like 3, 4, 5, and 6? Now they are 15 to 16 years old. Like, who knows what will come of these children? Will anybody care enough to try to get them any type of counseling or things of that nature? You know? It's absolutely by design, Gwen Star. It's absolutely by design. They want it to be several issues that we have to deal with in this country at one time so that we can't focus on the things that we need to focus on, right? Politics being one of them, generational wealth being another, generational poverty, you know, substandard living situations. Hey, NYW, all of these things coming at you at one time. When it comes to your jobs and your careers, you have to be better than everybody else. If you are melanated, you know that it is harder for you to raise to advance in the company if you are melanated. All of these things you have to deal with on a daily basis, to the point to where a lot of black people just choose to bury their heads in the sand and don't want to deal with it at all. Take for instance what's going on in this country right now with politics. Okay, a lot of black people don't even realize that their vote is imperative via this presidential election. Our elected officials are not even putting an emphasis on that. They are not even telling their people how imperative our vote is, right? Our vote stands between the difference of us being under the Constitution of remaining under the Constitution of the United States versus being under a dictatorship. But they don't even want to tell you that. Okay? That's how screwed up this country is, in my opinion. That is the reason why this country is going to fall like Rome and all of the other once great empires. because it refuses to right the wrongs. It refuses to acknowledge the wrongs. Okay, it refuses to atone for the wrongs. But the people that pay for that are us everyday people. We are just simply used as pawns for the 1%ers and the 0%ers that you never even heard about. I'm calling them 0%ers because there are people, founding fathers in this country, the founding families of this country. Those are the people that are in control of the government and everything else that goes on in this country. There's a political fight going on in this country right now for this country. And I'm just not even talking about the who's going to be the president of the United States. It's beyond that. It's beyond it. And Trump, his father was an immigrant, and they say his father was a pimp, and had a opium bin, and a pimp and a drug dealer. That's how they gained their generational wealth. So he so desperately wants to be a part of that 0% crew, but they're using him to do the dirty work. That's like they try to divide everyday people. Anglos don't even realize that they are also being used as a pawn in this game, in this fight. But they've been indoctrinated to think that, oh, I just hate black people just because you black. Whether I know you or not, I hate you just because of the color of your skin. They've been indoctrinated in that world since birth, most of them. Even if they didn't have these types of conversations in their home, the world is going to make them aware of this situation. That's why you have so many young Anglo people right now being so racist, whether they was raised that way or they figured out that's what was up, in this country. They feel like they are entitled simply because of the color of their skin. You have some black people indoctrinated, thinking that they are indoctrinated, thinking that they fit in, thinking they are part of that system of white supremacy racism, to the point to where they don't even acknowledge their people, let alone their blackness. I've heard some very, disturbing things even from this sector. I heard that TMO chick say one day, or type in the chat one day, you would be surprised if I did my ancestry DNA and I come back 99% Swedish. Girl, with all that deep melanin you got in your skin, you gonna come back 99% Swedish. Okay, that's telling me that you hate your blackness. You don't hate Cloud, you hate who you are. And that's unfortunate. I heard somebody talking about this morning, I think, on Ronnie Q's, a guy. Who was it that got up there talking about how we segregate ourselves from one another? Okay, there's a reason for that. Even me, I am black first, but I am not going to, just because I am black first, I'm not going to agree with any black person, that's doing something wrong. Why would I do that? That don't make no sense. That's right. The caste system was invented by the 1%ers to keep the division from the races from knowing that the everyday folks, we really have the power in this country, because there are far more of us as opposed to them. And I'm not only talking about black people, but because of the divide, that has gone on for centuries, other, people can't see that. And that's unfortunate. But when it comes to black people, even in the motherland, I think that they were talking about it, this morning, people had different tribes, right? And what is that popular thing that they say, your vibe attracts your tribe or whatever? That is true. Why would I click up with gangbangers? That don't make no sense. Why would I click up with wrongdoers? Why would I click up with mentally ill people? How is that serving me and my family and my tribe and my group of people that I hang around? Because see, you can't save everybody, and you absolutely can't save somebody from themselves. Okay? You have a lot of black men and women that choose to divest. And we know what that's about, especially when it comes to black men divesting. They say they hate black women. Why? A black woman had you. Without us, there would be no you. Do you see what I'm saying? You got a lot of black women that go about things the wrong way when it pertains to testosterone. Okay? And part of the reason why is because we as black women, it is also in our DNA to protect the black man. But black women have had to choose to go their own way so that they can protect themselves, because a lot of black men have been emasculated to the point to where they want to compete with black women. They say they hate black women. Why do you hate the black woman when she's always trying to protect you? You hate the black woman and you lash out against the black woman because you are afraid to lash out against the thing that has emasculated you. And the thing that has emasculated you is not the black woman, honey. The thing that has emasculated you is white supremacy, racism. That's the thing that has emasculated you. But you are scared to confront white supremacy, racism. So instead, you mistreat the very thing that gave you life. There's somebody on here that called black people Neanderthals. I said, that is so freaking ignorant. You don't even know what it is that you're saying. I'm not even going to get into that, why that is so ridiculous. They absolutely have displaced anger. Absolutely. And some black women do too. Your stupid self is on here calling other black people Neanderthals. We don't possess a drop of Neanderthal DNA in our genes. It is not possible because we are fully formed human beings, honey. We did not evolve into anything. We always were. We always have been, and we always will be. So it is very ignorant when I hear a black person call another person Neanderthal. Okay? It's just all that silly, ignorant stuff that goes on. Okay, that's just an example, just a little small example of black people not even having enough sense to know from whence they came and how they came about. This is why I don't do these types of videos anymore over here. Cause why? Why would I bother? I learned to realize that it's on you. Okay. But I will remain collectively black first. Collectively, not individually, unfortunately. Because there is no loyalty when it comes to black people and their own people. You just have to stick with your tribe. Okay? That's what you have to do. And when it comes to the non-black people listening to this video, honey, if the shoe don't fit, don't put it on. It is what it is. So, yeah, that's just a little something to think about. I really want to, like I said, until we as a race can understand the vision, we will absolutely. But there is going to come a time when we're going to be forced to unify. And that time, I feel, is coming very soon. Sooner than later. And it's a shame that you have to be forced to unify with your own people. But that is for a lot of reasons, chattel slavery being one of them. You have been indoctrinated to hate not only yourself, but also your own dang on people. And until you pull yourself out of that indoctrination, you will forever feel that way. You will forever hate yourself. You will forever hate your own people. But you first have to realize what's going on. And a lot of black people don't even realize what's going on or don't want to acknowledge what's going on. They feel like if they don't acknowledge the thing that it won't be true. But it's true. It's happening and it will continue to happen. Because see, this problem when it comes to white supremacy, racism, and how black people are treated less than 3/5 of a human being in this country, that is not a us problem. when it comes to this country, it is a them problem because they refuse, like I said, to acknowledge or do anything about or make reparations towards, atone for chattel slavery, one of the original sins that occurred in this country. They tried to atone to the indigenous Indians, but they have not really, in my opinion, even thought about trying to atone or even truly acknowledge what melanated people went through in this country. The Americans that were and are descended from slavery. People forget that we were enslaved longer than we've been, absolutely, for over 400 years. When they starve us out, we'll unite. They can try to, they'll try to starve us out, and this gonna cause total chaos and anarchy. We can see it coming. Not for only melanated people, for our regular people. That's right. NYW, I talked about that. I mentioned that earlier. Absolutely. Education is a revolutionary act. Yes, it is, especially teaching history properly. I absolutely agree. But even if you not had a formal education when it comes to being black, okay, your life, how your life has transpired, the experience, life experience is the best teacher of all. Life experience is the best teacher of all, especially when it comes to things of this nature. Because life will show you one way or the other. You will realize. You will not be allowed to hide under that rock forever. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. But this crime right here, this is some ridiculous stuff. But it just makes me think, how many other children are going through something like this? How many other adults are going through something like this? Because this has to be a whole crime ring, in my opinion. Because the lady don't look bothered at all, and neither does the man. And how are you going to have all of these properties, these six-figure properties, and you don't have any identifiable legit income? That lets you know it's a whole, underground operation going on, in my opinion. I know that's right, Claude. I absolutely agree. Claude said you're right about that, but those who know are going to rejoice. But that's another chapter, revolution in fact. Revelation, in fact. You're right about that, Claude. I absolutely agree. But like I said, the crime was truly horrible. I was so saddened by it. I feel so bad for them babies. I hope they get the help that they need and deserve. Even if they get some kind of intense therapy, who knows? What their future looks like going forward. Who knows how long they were subjected to this type of treatment. So you got trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. Especially when it comes to the 14-year-old girl and the 16-year-old boy. Trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. That is truly horrible. Horrible. But Cloud, we done talked about that revelation, haven't we? We talked about that. But anyway, I haven't done a video like this in a while. Like I said, these videos are not popular, but I had to do it today because I really didn't appreciate what happened to those children. They're from ages 6 to 16. Gwen, the 14-year-old and the 16-year-old were locked in the shack at night with being locked on the inside with no electricity, meaning no heat or no air, and no water, meaning no proper bathroom facilities. And they say that they had the older kids had a horrible stench, as well as the boy had actual sores under the bottom of his feet. I'm like, oh my God. And they said that they had a very foul odor, a stench. They called it a stench on these children. And you know that there had to be malnutrition and everything else. Because if they're in that bad condition, clearly they're not going to a hospital. That's what made me question, how many children have they had in these conditions over the years? How many children are not even here anymore because of these horrible conditions? But they didn't report it. They just buried them somewhere. That's what it made me think. It also made me think that there's some kind of ring going on, some kind of modern day slavery ring going on, aside from the human trafficking that we've all heard about and we know of. Aside from that, there's something even darker and more insidious going on in this country when it comes to melanated, not only children, but also adult melanated men and women. Because thousands of us go missing every year and it's very rarely talked about. I'm praying for their healing too, sir. But anyway, that's all I got. Y'all, thanks for listening to me. Like I said, I know these types of lives are not very popular. I really don't even do them anymore because, like, why bother? You see what I'm saying? If I have to have this conversation, I have it in real time with real people that are actually willing to have the conversation, or I will go to a other sector and have the conversation, But I really want to talk about this today because it's very important. It's horrible what happened to these babies. Like, it hurt my feelings. Like, I'm like, oh my God. But then I had to think, am I really surprised? And unfortunately, no. No, I'm not. You know? Thank you, NYW. Y'all, please hit the like button on your way out the door. Please share the video so they can get in the algorithm. I don't even know if it will or not. Y'all know how YouTube is, but I still wanted to come on and talk to whoever wanted to have the conversation. you know. And I'm so thankful to the people that mentioned it to me last night in the chat because I had not even heard about it because I have been obsessed with this election. Okay. Hey, Tulip. And if you came in late, please be part of the replay gang. Of course, I put it on my community wall. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Just send prayers and positive thoughts to these babies, y'all, and to whoever in this world is going through something like this. But there is a reckoning coming, and Cloud mentioned it, and it's all wrote down in the book of Revelations. And we know that when it comes to that Bible, it is about us, okay? Because this has been on my mind, and I need. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you for saying that. You're very welcome. So anyway, I'm gonna get off of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. I hate that I had to come to you with such a somber, live today, but it really needed to be talked about. I haven't talked about this sort of thing, in a very long time. Because, like I said, why bother? It's only falling on deaf ears when it comes to a whole lot of people, and that's unfortunate. But it is what it is. Thank you, Sarah. So I'm gonna talk to you guys later. You guys keep your head up. Be safe out there. Stay hydrated because we're still under a heat dome, which is extremely hot in the south. Okay, extremely. Ciao. Like I said, stay hydrated and stay cool. I love you in the way that Christ loves you, and I'm gonna talk to you guys later. Bye bye. Peace.